You have watched Toy Story more times than you can count. You cried at the third one. You know every character. But I promise you have never watched it like this.
Doing that. Back, you savages. Back home.
Because hiding inside 5 animated films about plastic toys is a complete MBA education. Let's get into it. Hi, if you're new here, I have an MBA in change management, and what I do is translate the frameworks you'd learn in business school into the content you can watch in minutes. And today, we're starting with a plastic cowboy across all 5 Toy Story films. Lesson 1 comes from the first Toy Story movie. This teaches us the incumbent versus the disruptor. Let me set the scene. In Andy's bedroom, Woody is the top toy. Every other toy respects him. Then, one birthday, Andy gets a Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. Come in, Star Command.
Buzz is new, shiny, and has wings and laser sound effects. Woody doesn't even have moving parts. Within 24 hours, Woody is on the shelf. Here is the business lesson. Woody didn't get worse. His quality didn't change, but the market moved and he got left behind anyway. Business school has a name for this, the innovator's dilemma. The idea is that market leaders are disrupted not because they made mistakes, but because something newer and more exciting arrived and shifted what customers wanted. Kodak didn't make bad cameras. BlackBerry didn't make a bad phone. Blockbuster wasn't a bad video store. They were all Woody sitting on the shelf while a Buzz Lightyear walked through the door. Woody's first reaction is not curiosity and adaptation, it's sabotage. He resists, dismisses, and denies. So the question is, when your Buzz Lightyear shows up, are you going to sabotage it or learn to fly with it? Now let's go to lesson 2, power transition and change management. Same film, different angle. When Buzz arrives and Andy chooses him, we watch Woody go through what researchers call the change curve. This was originally mapped for grief, but organizational change experts use it constantly. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Woody hits every stage. He denies Buzz as a threat. He gets reactive. He tells himself it's temporary, and only at the very end, stranded at Sid's house with no other choice, does he finally accept it and start working with Buzz instead of against him.
Ground. What a touch. That was a stroke of genius.
Woody. Thanks.
John Cotter built an 8-step change model around exactly this problem. The first 2 steps are always the same: create urgency and build a coalition. Woody's transformation only happens when the urgency becomes undeniable and he stops trying to win alone. The lesson for leaders: resistance to change is not stubbornness, it's fear. And fear responds to urgency and partnership, not mandates. Lesson 3. Let's take it to Toy Story 2, where we learn brand heritage versus brand extension. Toy Story 2 gives us one of the most underrated brand strategy case studies ever put on screen. Woody gets stolen by a toy collector named Al. In his apartment, Woody discovers he is not just a toy. He's a vintage collectible worth a fortune, and Al plans to sell him to a museum in Japan. The pitch? Stay in the collection, live forever behind glass, perfectly preserved. Or go back to Andy, knowing that one day Andy will grow up and Woody will end up in a box in the attic. That is the brand heritage versus brand extension dilemma.
Fixed Woody!
Yeah, glad I decided not to take him to camp. His whole arm might have come off.
Well, what do you know?
Levi's tried to chase every new category in the 1990s: dress pants, casual wear, fashion lines. The extension diluted the core and nearly destroyed what made the brand mean something. Porsche launched the Cayenne SUV and Pierce revolted, but Cayenne saved the company financially and brought in an entire new customer. Same dilemma, but 2 very different outcomes. The question for any brand is whether you can grow without abandoning the core emotional promise that made people love you in the first place. Woody chooses Andy. The film rewards that choice, but it doesn't pretend the other option was obviously wrong. And good strategy rarely has an obvious answer either.
Andy, you think she's ready to drive the car yet?
Yeah, and I can teach her.
You still worried?
About Andy?
Lesson 4 comes from Toy Story 3, Customer Lifecycle and Churn. Andy is 17 and leaving for college. He has not played with his toys in years, and now he has to decide: keep them, donate them, or throw them away. This is what every business eventually faces: customer churn. The core customer grew up and moved on, not because the product got worse, but because the customer changed. In marketing, we call this the customer life cycle: acquisition, activation, retention, and eventually churn. The toys did nothing wrong, but they were designed for a child, and that child is now packing for college. Sunnyside Daycare represents the pivot. New market, new customers, fresh acquisition opportunity. That is textbook customer-based diversification. The brands that survive a generational churn are the ones that plan for it. Lego almost went bankrupt in 2000s because their core customer, 7 to 12-year-old boys, was being lost to video games. So they launched Lego for adults, Lego architecture, and Lego with movie franchises like Star Wars. They diversified their customer base the same way the toys needed to find their Bonnie. Think about this: when your core customer outgrows you, who is your next customer, and are you ready for them? Lesson 5 comes from Toy Story 4, letting go or leadership succession. Toy Story 4 ends with Woody choosing to leave, and it's devastating. It is also the most important leadership lesson in the entire franchise. Succession is one of the most studied failure points in organizational leadership and one of the most avoided conversations in business. The statistics are grim. According to research from Harvard Business Review, companies that fail to plan for leadership succession lose an average of $1.8 billion in shareholder value during leadership transitions. Steve Jobs could not let go until he had to. Warren Buffett spent decades being asked about succession at Berkshire Hathaway and deflecting the question. In both cases, the companies had to scramble when the moment came. Woody's transition works because it's a choice. He recognizes that Jesse is ready. He recognizes that his attachment to the role is about him, not about what is best for the group. And he has the courage to act on that recognition before he is forced to. This last lesson comes from the new film, Toy Story 5. Lesson 6, comeback strategy, or brand resurrection. Toy Story 3 was a perfect farewell. Andy says goodbye to the toys, Bonnie gets them, everyone cries, credits roll, done, beautiful. Then Toy Story 4 happened. Then Toy Story 5 arrives. And suddenly the question every brand strategist has to wrestle with is right in front of us. When does coming back make you stronger? And when does it dilute everything that made you matter? Brand resurrection is a real strategy. Brands do it all the time. Marvel was bankrupt in the late 1990s. They sold off their best IP just to stay alive. X-Men went to Fox, Spider-Man went to Sony, and then Kevin Feige built the MCU from what was left, starting with Iron Man in 2008, and created the highest grossing franchise in film history. The difference between a successful comeback and a cynical cash grab comes down to one thing. Is there a new story worth telling, or are you just returning because you can? The verdict on Toy Story 5 is still out, but the business question it forces is timeless. When you revive a brand, a product line, or a strategy, ask yourself honestly, am I coming back with something worth saying, or am I just coming back? 30 years and 5 films with important business lessons. This is what I love about business strategy. The frameworks are everywhere. You just have to know how to look. If this kind of content is what you came to this channel for, please like and subscribe and turn on notifications. I will see you in the next one.